everyone, and welcome to the Science North podcast, Give Vaccines a Shot, where we'll explore the latest in vaccine news, learn all about the global health pandemic we've been facing, and have an opportunity to learn about the importance of our immune system. We'll be doing all of this through the lens of our expert guests. This month's guests are Rebecca Dawn and Walter Whitebear from the TELUS Spark Science Centre in Calgary. Rebecca Dawn and Walter Whitebear are co-founders of a project called Many Nations, One Voice for Wellness. We spoke together about their project, which also received a grant from the Public Health Agency of Canada, and how they use the voices of traditional Indigenous elders and knowledge keepers, scientists, hip-hop artists, and youth to help share stories and perspectives on vaccines. Welcome to our Give Vaccines a Shot podcast. And I would like to give you the opportunity to both introduce yourselves, and if you feel comfortable, you can share your pronouns and tell us a little bit about your background and your expertise.
Go ahead, Ms. Dawn.
Oh, well, thank you, Walter. Hello, everyone. My name's Rebecca Dawn, and I'm a hip-hop artist here in Calgary. I record music and perform at festivals, and I feel like when we share our art practice with a group of people, it creates an energy vortex of awareness, and we can open hearts and minds and soften and come together. So that's my first passion, and that also translates into coaching Science Genius, which is a program that instructs youth on how to write songs about science topics. And we do all kinds of fun things with the Beakerhead Renegade Festival and the TELUS Spark Science Centre. And also my academic background is as an environmental scientist. So I have a master's degree in coastal and marine ecosystems and their interaction with the earth and the atmosphere. And I find a lot of wisdom and lessons in guiding social interactions from the lessons of nature. Nice. And right now I'm co-producing the Many Nations, One Voice for Wellness project with Mr. Walter Whitebear at Spark. And together we are creating music video PSAs to educate people about health, well-being, wellness, the immune system, vaccines, and viruses. And
excellent.
You, my friend.
All right, Walter.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Walter Whitebear. I come from Treaty 9 and Treaty 4. I'm from Treaty 9 Moose Factory. That's on my father's side. And my mother's side, I'm Treaty 4 from Sapatewak First Nation. But I've been living in Treaty 7 territory now since 1991 when I started my degree at the University of Calgary. So I've been a musician and I guess a public speaker and a ceremonial leader for the last 30 years. I got various contracts within the community. One of them is working with Calgary Corrections and working with the inmates there, and also educating the guards on, Indigenous issues. So as well as that, I got something with the National Arts Center where I do a cross-cultural presentation inside school systems, as well as for deans and professors and teachers with my teaching partner, Samantha Whalen Kokes. And I am also one of the co-managers of the hip hop project, Many Nations, One Voice. And it was my role to help bring these artists in touch with knowledge keepers and elders within our circle. So all the information that we gathered has been by the blessing of the community, and that was really important for TELUS Spark and the project to have the blessings to share these teachings, because we're kind of going through a stage right now where we're just waking up as the original people from all the trauma that was imposed upon us by residential schools. So it's been a bit of tricky dance, but also a very beautiful one where we've actually brought some of the artists out to ceremony, which was a pivotal point in the traditional teachings. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. You've both mentioned the project that you're working on, the title. So One Nation, One Voice. Sorry, One Voice, One Nation.
Many Nations,
Many One voice.
Yes, so the many nations are all the different cultures and backgrounds and walks of life of different folks. And then the one voice is art form. So we're using art form to explore this topic. And actually, even before we go any further, I'd also like to acknowledge that we're coming to you from Mokinstis. So Mokinstis means elbow in the Blackfoot language, and we are here at the confluence of the Bow and Elbow rivers, and it's also known as Calgary. And so I just want to express my gratitude to this land for sustaining our lives, and also to the original peoples who have been so generous in sharing their wisdoms and teachings, and especially in the context of this project. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Is this project that you're working on right now, the Many Nations, One Voice for Wellness, is this similar to the Science Genius program that you were talking about, or is it something completely different?
Well, that's a good question, and it is actually something completely different. So this is completely founded in Indigenous teachings to kick it off. And so, as Walter was mentioning, we had the opportunity to go to a sweat lodge and a shaking tent to smudge and to receive some teaching. So Walter's been showing us about the medicine wheel and also about the 7 sacred teachings. And that's really the foundation of this whole project, as we say. Many paths lead to wellness. And one of those paths is songwriting. So we have that in common with the Science Genius program. And we're also going to be working with youth. But maybe I'll pass to Walter to mention a little more maybe about the medicine wheel and the 7 sacred teachings, because that's really our foundation.
Right. Well, the medicine wheel is found in, so many nations among the original people, all the way from, the Chickasaw Indians to the Seminole, all the way to up to Cree country and Blackfoot, of course. But one of the things that we've been running into is like to encapsulate all of the teachings of just one nation is kind of impossible, because when it comes to the original people, for whatever reason, we all get kind of lumped into one point of view. No one ever calls me on the phone, and I've got my thing on silent. Sorry.
It's okay.
Anyway, so it was really important to get the blessings of the many nations around here, because there's like 3 that are, been here for thousands of years. And then Calgary seems to be a melting pot for Ojibways, Cree, Métis, and all these other different nations that make up the mosaic of the original people in the Calgary area. So it's been really insightful, really beautiful, and it also comes with some challenges. But I think the most important thing is to have the support of the community, Telespark as an agency, as well as, the buy-in from the artists. And the most important thing for me that has come out of this project is the relationship, with these young people, and, having them to be exposed to some of our philosophies. And that's been, one of my favorite things about this project. Yeah.
Collaboration is definitely important. How does this program work? Do you seek out the groups in Calgary, or do people apply to be part of the program?
Well, we actually started our program with a series of 3 focus groups where we reached out to artists, youth, as well as Indigenous elders and knowledge keepers and scientists. So we put out the call each to our own networks and reached out to anyone we thought might be interested. And we all came together, we shared a meal, we had a smudge, we talked about the topics. And then through that process, at the end of the 3rd focus group, we crystallized into a unit of highly motivated and diverse folks who were interested in creating a musical theater production, which we debuted for Indigenous Science Days at Spark back in June. And so we performed a musical theater piece based on the 7 sacred teachings, including the wisdom of the immune system, vaccines, and viruses. And then we performed that in the Infinity Dome. So it was a full over 180 degrees viewing experience, and it featured touring Indigenous hip hop duo Lightning Cloud. They actually produced the award-winning musical Bear Grease. And so that's sort of the progress from when we kicked off the project in January of this year. So it's been a very iterative, reflexive kind of mutually reciprocal process where everyone was pitching ideas and moving and learning and growing and reaching out, so that what we're promoting is that space of listening with an open heart, with an open mind, and hearing each other out and respecting each other's point of view, because actually social anxiety and stress also have negative impacts on our immune system. So we're just starting from that place of creation, respect, and communication.
And then your performance that you had in June was available for people who were attending the Science Center, so the general public?
Yes, it was open to the public and free for Indigenous folks.
Very nice. Did you debut it on National Indigenous Day on the June 21st, or was it?
It was the weekend after the 21st. So on the 21st, we just had powwow dancers, and at Spark, they actually did the physics and mechanics of powwow dancing. So they had scientists and powwow dancers sharing knowledge, very fascinating, as well as a night market. And that was a team builder for all the artists on our team. Our team includes Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists, so we were able to come together and just enjoy and celebrate. And also shouts out to Corey Chewy and Taylor DeMay at Spark, because they're the Indigenous engagement team, and they are the superstars who put on that event. And then the following weekend, we debuted our musical production. So,
and did you have a way of assessing whether or not this was an effective way of helping people learn about vaccines and the immune system and public health issues?
What do you think, Walter?
Well, that was kind of the tricky thing, right? We were trying to raise awareness through and we're still in the process of recording and possibly buying airtime, whether at radio, TV, because we're trying to just get the word out there, like using social media, which was one of the parameters that we had to fit under when we launched this objective. And so it's kind of like nailing Jello to a wall. We really don't know, because we haven't had the opportunity, like had them fill out a questionnaire. Everything was just kind of, I don't know.
Like a pilot test.
Yeah, and just, coming to the shows and we actually didn't actually come out and say it, but it was strongly hinted at to get the vaccine is not only protecting your family, but, weaker members of the public, like the elderly or infant or people that are autoimmune deficiencies or whatever the case may be. And, like I said, we don't represent all of the original people and the general public of Calgary. There's definitely been adversarial points of view to the vaccinations, which to me on a personal note has always been funny thing, like peculiar, because I remember being a little boy and we all just got our polio shots and lined up in the gym, and there was really no, I don't know, it was just that the administration and the school board expect you to do it, and there was no, from my recollection, anyone really digging their heels about whether this was a good thing. So I think a number of things come into play, that people can go down rabbit holes and get misleading information on the internet, for one. And the second thing is to be isolated. We're social creatures, and to just be, to have the internet as a way of reaching out to people, it just made like a perfect storm that people be by themselves, isolated for weeks on end. And, you go on the net and pretty soon you can see things that aren't there. If that makes any sense.
Oh, for sure. I think we've all encountered people in our community and in our families that ended up going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I would like to say that they're uneducated, but that's not true. I knew lawyers, teachers, nurses, you name it, like all walks of life. It actually kind of surprised me and, cost me some friendships.
Mm-hmm. So kind of building on that question of is it challenging to build trust? Do you feel that maybe coming from Telespark, the Science Center, that you were able to build trust, or did you feel that this was an uphill battle of trying to build the trust?
Well, when it comes to the original people, there's a lot of mistrust because of, obviously what happened in this country. And there's a lot of people that were, taking the stand that we were guinea pigs, that this was not a truly tested and true vaccination. I never subscribed to that myself personally, but so it really depends on the generations, Generation X, the millennials. It seems like the younger people were more open to it and not, they weren't carrying around a lot of the historical baggages, some of our elders and older community members, right? So I find that the younger people, in my opinion, just seem to be more open to it. And, you know, quite frankly, each grade from 9 through 12 are very, they just missed a lot of growth in each one of those years, right? My son, grade 10 and 11 were predominantly online half the time. And, how much fun did we have in high school?
Yeah, being home for the past couple of years has been a challenge. I have children that, my daughter was in grade 7 and 8, so she missed that middle school awkward phase. So again, I was also like, it was a blessing, but not quite as well too, because there weren't the social interactions, right? So when they got back to school and she was in grade 9, she had switched schools and the interactions were very, very different. So it is definitely nice to be able to be back in person and being able to do things safely, which again is sort of another question for, were there challenges involved in meeting and gathering and doing it in a sensitive, a safe way, and also an inclusive way?
It's nice that you mention about your children and their experience through these past few years, because every generation has their own set of challenges and blessings. And so that's why I'm so grateful to be working on a project that includes youth and everybody all the way to elders. And even though maybe sometimes the youth are more open to new ideas, we also received some beautiful words of encouragement and wisdom from the elders who came out to the focus groups. And that was very guiding. It was challenging getting us all together because a few of us caught COVID. Luckily, we were vaccinated, so we were able to bounce back pretty quick and also just Zoom in video conference style, kind of like what we're doing right now, just embracing this cyberpunk reality that we're living in post-pandemic. We live in a sci-fi, so just leaning into it and accommodating everyone's schedules. But the nice thing about this project is the long timeline. So we have time to reach out to elders and wait for them to get back to us to prepare, follow protocol, and go to ceremony in a good way, and to have time to do the math and to schedule the rehearsals and to create our best work. So I'm grateful for the longer timeline. And then in determining if it's been effective so far, we have a lot of qualitative data from our participants. And the lucky thing is, through all the products we're creating, a 360 movie for the Dome, album of music that will describe all the teachings, all these things that we're about to roll out. We're working actually with Digital Public Square to think about some quiz and gaming style little interactive data collection pieces and educational interfaces we could use to sort of measure our results a little down the line. So that'll be coming up in the next phase of our project.
That's incredible. I love it. The collaboration between all of our grant recipients. So we had a wonderful conversation with them. For Latani about their project as well too.
I love different groups sharing because it gives this campus vibe. Like we're all doing our research and learning, but then we're feeding back to each other and getting inspiration, having some conversations, and I feel a real sense of community this year on this project.
So you were mentioning some of the products. You've got your 360 film, which I'm assuming when you describe it, it's being shown in the planetarium
That's right. It's a planetarium screen, the Infinity Dome. So we had the live music production and the hip hop concert in the Dome. Emo Starlight, local Tsuut'ina filmmaker, recorded it with a 360 camera, and now we'll be able to play it back as a movie.
Are you going to make this available to other science centers to be able to show?
We have been talking with folks since the Canadian Association of Science Centers conference. We made some new friends, and we've been discussing it. Other science centers that have planetarium style screens could definitely host this movie.
That's excellent. And then you also said you're creating an album, and are the songs going to be available? Are you trying to get radio play with this, or how are you getting those?
Yeah, it'll be out on the radio and all streaming platforms in 2023.
Excellent. I sort of asked this a little bit, but do you think that you've changed anybody's minds about vaccines yet?
Personally, I could say for sure that whether or not we've changed their minds, we've definitely softened their hearts. That folks that are very anti-vax saw some of the art and said, that's beautiful. So that's a step.
I think it's pretty tough to say, and I don't know. I really don't think too much about that, to be honest with you. I just I lead my life, and like I said, I got vaccinated to protect those people that were at risk, and it was just something automatic, and don't really spend a lot of time thinking why people would not want to get it. It just kind of seems silly to me, so I just kind of parked it there. But like Rebecca said, there was a lot of people there at TELUS for our lunch, and whether or not they came away with something, I really couldn't answer to that. I'm hoping they did, but I guess that remains to be seen.
Well, as Rebecca Dawn was saying, they had the opportunity to be exposed to an art form that they might not necessarily have been exposed to, and if they enjoyed themselves, maybe there is a little inkling of something there, that they realize that we have things that are in common, and maybe we've sort of broken a few barriers.
Maybe. Like, one thing I came away with, we ran a Science Genius style rap cipher for our third focus group, and the topic was how vaccines actually work. So for example, in the COVID vaccine, there's no active contagion that could hurt you. It's just something that the protein spike that looks like the virus. So your immune system can learn and memorize it. And then the next time it sees something that looks like that protein spike that was in your vaccine, it'll be able to bolster up and defend you against it. So I learned that, and it was very interesting. And then we had the opportunity to freestyle rap about it with Mr. Walter Whitebear playing like a jazz flute. We had Jesse Shire from Calgary, Alberta playing bass, and then a whole bunch of university rappers just elaborating on the topic. It was a really fun process, and that video will be coming out on YouTube later this year. And you could see it all live happening in the video. But that was something cool I learned that I took away from it. So I'll just share that right now for anyone who's watching.
I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing the video.
We have people coming out the streets.
What are some things that you learned from this project that were surprising?
Well, for myself, it's definitely the things that we were allowed to share on stage and in public, because that information and those kind of prayers really belong inside ceremony. But the elders that we, got on board are very like-minded, and, just have a universal approach to life, right? So a live and let live kind of philosophy, which was really welcoming. And yeah, so that's kind of it in a nutshell for me.
That live and let live philosophy, and for me, just the opportunity to be able to go to Indigenous ceremonies here in the area and participate in those spiritual practices, which is the foundation of health, and in Indigenous life ways and ways of knowing. And I'm a non-Indigenous person, so I was so happy I had the chance to receive those teachings, and they give me so much guidance in my daily choices and balance as I'm seeking just to assemble the components of my own life. And so just the depth of how grateful a person could actually feel just being out on the land, in nature, receiving the teachings, and just being treated like a friend, being welcomed into the community, just the opportunity to deepen my friendship with local Indigenous folks. It's like beyond surprising. It's humbling.
And we'll finish up with 2 questions. So what was the most challenging part about this project?
I think, getting everyone on board, and no matter, it takes years to really understand ceremony and philosophy. Like just going to a sweat or a ceremony or 2 is one thing, but to live that life and to smudge every day and to go to ceremony when things are going okay, right? A lot of people kind of lean on ceremony just when they hit times of turbulence, but just to make that a lifestyle. Yeah, it was very difficult to try to get the artists to fully understand native philosophies and principles as much as they're open to it, but it takes years to establish those relationships within the circle, and going to sweats and learning the songs the proper way, because we don't record them. It's the amount of time that you go, and then finally the rhythm and the song actually comes a part of you. And so that was a bit of a challenge, but at the same time, it was also really nice to see the willingness of the participants open to trying.
That's true. I think, yes, facilitating harmony is a challenge with many different viewpoints and many different perspectives and ways of doing things. And I think Walter made such an excellent point, like just having an open heart or the willingness to understand doesn't actually mean you're going to understand right away. So we will make mistakes, there'll be a bumpy road, and we'll have to still do that work. Even just the willingness is the first step, of course. We can't do anything without that, but long ways to go after that, still a long ways to go.
And then finally, what was the favorite part about this project?
For me, performing. That was fun. Like when the show finally got going, and to have Crystal Lightning and her partner Red Cloud there, and to get the endorsement of Wilfred Bach was one of my highlights, because he's a pretty renowned medicine man and speaker, and he's revered, and to have him shake my hand and say, "You guys did a really good job, and I liked your teachings about the eagle feather and the medicine wheel." It's quite a compliment, to say the least.
Yes, agreed. One of my favorite things about it was working with Walter Whitebear. He's so talented. He's a teacher and a musician, and he really inspired me. So co-directing the musical piece with him was so much fun, and we have complementary skill sets. So while he was on stage wowing the audience, I was behind the scenes with the lighting and the tech crew and the budget, and getting mentorship from the CFO at Spark, and learning all the components of supporting, and also just giving feedback to the artists and coaching them to be their best on stage. So that whole multifaceted piece of like really that community work of creating art, that's my favorite.
Thank you so much for both of you for sharing this project with us. Your passion is so appreciated, and we look forward to seeing all of the products that have come from this project. Miigwech.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Is there any sort of final things you would like to leave us with?
Gratitude to your team for putting this together. It's so cool to have these conversations. I had a really nice time. Thank you for hosting us.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much for listening. We also want to know what questions you have. If you have any questions based on this episode or about vaccines, viruses, or the immune system in general, please reach out to us using our email, vaccines@sciencenorth.ca. We're always happy to address those questions. If you want to find out more, visit our website, sciencenorth.ca, give vaccines a shot. Also, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you're listening to or watching us on YouTube, please be sure to follow. Lastly, Give Vaccines a Shot is funded through a financial contribution from the Public Health Agency of Canada. The views expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the views of the Public Health Agency of Canada.